right, so we're continuing on with learning. How do we learn? So we learned previous class, we talked about classical conditioning, right, where we associate things with other things in order to produce some sort of link, right? Neutral stimulus with natural stimulus combined together to create new behaviors. Now we're in outbreak conditioning, and now we're looking at reinforcements, right? So the theory behind this is that everything that you do in terms of behavior, including things that you know, things that you believe is knowledge, is actually just things from external environment back in the home, right? So here the argument is really that you don't have a free will. Evolutionary psychologists would say so. Some other psychologists, behavioral psychologists would say so. That really are nothing more than a product of all the stimulus in your experience of life as a reaction to either being rewarded with something as a benefit or being punished with something to make you stop doing something or alter your behavior. So we're really going to look at rewards and punishments and how they alter our behavior. So in theory, we say, well, when we're born, we have homeostasis, we have a balance, a natural balance, right? Let's say a 50-yard line. Anything, which is our comfort zone. So we say the human person always seeks to be comforted in a pleasant position, right? Which means that we will continue to act and do things that bring us some sort of comfort, pleasantries, or something to make you feel good. And you're going to try to stop behaviors that you feel are uncomfortable, that are unpleasant, right? Say something below your 50-yard line. And with this knowledge, we think that anything could be done to shape you to react and behave, alter your long-term behavior in such ways, depending on how we do it. So we say that operating conditioning is a type of learning in which behavior is strengthened, followed by a reinforcer, a punishment, or punisher, right? So operant behavior that operates on the environment to produce rewarding stimuli, punishing stimuli. In contrast, we said classical conditioning involves respondent behavior, automatic responses to a stimulus. So with this, we're saying, hey, we can introduce something that is stimulating to you, that you view as a reward to get you to do some stuff, right? Or we can either punish you by adding some sort of punishment or taking away something that'll be perceived to be a punishment to make you stop doing something or make you do something else, right? So here we're going to talk about positive reinforcers, negative reinforcers. Right? We talk positive is always adding something, negative is always taking something. So the theory also, when it comes to this learning, the psychologists generally believe that there is no learning. That all learning is just behavior. So what you perceive as new knowledge that you've acquired, the behavioral psychologists say it's not really new knowledge you acquired. It's just a new way of behaving. Right? You just get stimulated with something that went in your mind and alters how you think about something, which is thinking is your behavior. Thinking will ultimately influence your behavior. So it's kind of a tricky way of looking at things. So like, oh, interesting. Okay? Behavioral psychologists don't really believe in learning per se, but really learning is changing behavior. Changing behavior. So here we're looking at behavior operates in the environment to produce rewarding and punishing stimuli. Organisms associate their own actions with consequences. Right? So we're looking at actions and consequences. Sometimes we stumble upon things and say, oh wow, that's interesting. I wonder if I do that again, will it be the same consequence? Right? So we repeat that action and say, interesting, happened the second time. Let's do the third or fourth or fifth and the sixth time. Then we finally So think of how a job would get you to change your behavior. Maybe the job could say, well, guess what, I'm going to increase your pay. Like, excellent, I'll work harder. Work harder means change your behavior, right? Hey, we're going to decrease your pay. Right? I'm going to work less. Right? You know what, we're going to start paying you every week instead of bi-weekly. I love this job. I'm coming in early. I'm going to do overtime. Right? So we say any way, any institution, including the school systems primarily, are shaping your behavior, right, to become something that we want you to become. Fancy thoughts, concepts, and definitions, right? So that we can influence your behavior in some way. So here you can't really see, but B.F. Skinner. B.F. Skinner is one of the, just maybe as popular signature, right? So B.F. Skinner is a behavioral psychologist who is extremely notable, and Skinner took from Thorndike. Thorndike came up with this law of effect, which states that rewarded behavior tends to recur. So Thorndike kind of observed that when you give something that is perceived as rewarding to an organism, right, to an animal, to a being, that behavior, which the reward is coming from, will typically reoccur, right? But Skinner took it a bit further, right? Skinner started doing experiments in laboratory with rats and pigeons and things like this. And so he started having some intricate observations, which we'll see in a second. And Skinner sort of developed behavioral technology that revealed principles of behavioral control. We'll look at those technologies in the Skinner box. That was it's called the operant chamber, or the Skinner box, for experiments that included a lever that an animal presses, or a key or disc that an animal pecks to release a reward of food or order, as well as a device that enforces these responses. Okay, so we say, all right, let's put the cat into a Skinner box. Let's say cat's never been in a box or contraption ever, right? It knows nothing about being confined in this square box, right? Never had any experience with it. So it's sort of ignorant to what's inside and what it's supposed to have. It has no expectations whatsoever. So cat gets in the box and it's like, hey, I don't like this, right? I naturally don't like this. This is, brings me anxiety. I need to get out. So cat tries first, maybe just stick its head with the slats, and then it realizes, like, okay, I'm gonna do this about 15 times. I realize I can't get out, right? Cat starts to scratch inside the box, like this doesn't work, right? Cat starts maybe gnawing, trying to bite things, all sorts of things. Cat is exhibiting behavior to try to figure out what to do, as we would with anything, right? What to do. It randomly hits this lever right here, just by chance. It wasn't thinking about it, just randomly. And then the door opens, right? Cat sees the door open, it shoots out the box. Cat hasn't learned anything yet, right? Because we said it needs to be reinforced. Reinforced means repetition, right? We need to repeat things over and over and over. So we put the cat back in the box. And it takes a little bit more time, a little bit less time. Now he hits the lever again and he gets out. Do it again, he's still looking around, biting things, and then he hits it and he gets out. So here's what we get. After a while, cat figures it out, right? If I hit this lever, there's a consequence to this action, this behavior. The consequence is that this opens up. Cat has now learned cause and effect for this particular item. So you say it's learned something, right? Just like we would learn something if we just repeat it several times. So here they give a graph. On the x-axis, right, we get 0 to 25 trials, times tried. And then on the y-axis, we have the time elapsed, right, which goes up to about 4 minutes. So we said when we first put him in the box, it took him about 4 minutes to figure out to get out. 20th time we put the cat in the box, it got out of courtesy. Right? So we say we have evidence to support that the cat has learned that if we press this lever, this opens up. That's what we taught cats. Right? It's like we would teach a dog, a pigeon, a rat. Right? We would use these experiments. So the cat learns the same way that we learn. Right? Which is we come across things randomly and we see something happens as a consequence of that. We're unsure if it actually works, which means we have to repeat it. And if we repeat it, we're doing our own laboratory experiment. We say, aha, 20 times I figured this out. A plus B equals C. So by shaping animals' natural behaviors, right? When we say natural behavior, is to eat, is to move, right? Those are really only natural, real behaviors to do things that you naturally do. You're thirsty, seek out some water. You're hungry, get food, right? So we said we have to use things stimulated through natural processes. So by shaping animals' natural behavior, Skinner was able to teach these animals unnatural behaviors, right? Such as teaching pigeons to walk in a figure eight, play ping pong, missile on the course by painting that as so here, Skinner box gets a little bit more complex, right? Let's say Skinner put a speaker inside the box, put a light, put a bar, and here, obviously, the reinforcements are food and water. So you say, hey, we're going to dispense food, you do something that we want you to do. And we're going to give you water, you do something we want you to do. Particularly is to press the bar, right? But we can make it more interesting. Maybe we can introduce a sound. When we say now, it's really, when you hear a certain sound, that'll be associated with pressing the bar. And then you don't press it while you hear the sound, you might rat is not doing it, right? Which will take a long time, but eventually the rat will catch on. Same thing goes with a light. Maybe you can flick a light and the rat starts to notice that the light comes on and goes off, right? And maybe at first it presses the bar when the light goes off, but that's not what we want them to do. Putting the light back on. Then it finally presses the bar when the light comes on. Repeat this 50 times, 100 times. Rat finally connects in its brain. Remember we say as we learn, we connect neurons, this network in our brain to make things attach, which finally means it makes sense to us, right? The neuroplasticity, the neural linking. So think of this concept really from a broad theory. If Skinner is right, that means you you dress the way you do because you've been positively reinforced. You saw it on Instagram, you watch other people growing up, high school, grammar school. This is the conclusion. Right? This might be your standard of what you think is your best look, right? Based on what you observe from other people, right? And the reactions that other people gave those people. You may talk away because you've been shaped because of this sort of theory, right? You walk the way you walk because you've been shaped that way, right? So it really means like we are just products of our environment, in essence, right? We really are products of reward. Which in cases, I would say for the most part, true. Now, let me ask you, you go on social media, what is the positive reinforcement? What's the reward going on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat? Right? So we say, okay, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, likes and comments, right? Likes make you feel good, stimulate you, right? You say, oh wow, I got like 100 likes on that. I feel good about myself. Maybe I should repeat the same thing. If I repeat the same process, maybe I'll get 100 likes or more, right? Same goes with YouTube. Like, aha, this one video got 1,000 likes. Maybe if I repeat the same method, I can get 1,000 likes or more. Instagram, Facebook gives you likes, gives you followers, all these things to make you feel good. We say we want to feel pleasant. Human beings naturally want to feel great. That's just what it is, right? When we say too much of things that make us feel too great are potentially bad, right? We have a threshold for greatness. All right, at the top, you can't see, everyday behaviors are continually reinforced and shaped. So continually reinforced. That means every second of your life, you are being shaped and reinforced in some way. Right? Let's say if you're taking notes, you keep taking notes, you become better at taking notes. You type, right? You keep typing for class, you know, become a better typer. Right? All sorts of things. It means it never stops. It means this whole conditioning process of being taught how to be never stops. It's every second of your life. Right? Every second of life you're seeing something cause and effect, and it's constantly molding you into whoever you end up going to be. So shaping, gradually guiding behavior towards closer and closer approximations of the desired behavior. All we can say is, hey, we have desires, and we'll take little tiny steps to make those desires happen, right? Which are close approximations, little step-by-step approximations. Right? You say like, oh, okay, I want to get a degree from Dominican, which means you got I don't know, 120 credit hours or something. That's a lot of classes. So for each class, you get a decent grade. You get a closer approximation to the desired behavior of Dominican graduate. Now, with the method of success of approximations, responses that are increasingly closer to the final desired behavior are rewarded. All other responses are rewarded. So like we say, hey, you go get a job at Portillo's, right? And I think we talked about how Portillo's started paying people every day. Right? I get a paycheck every day. Why would Portillo's want to alter human behavior by paying them every day instead of every week, every other week, or something? Faster money. But what do they know about the workers? Like, what will be the rewarding stimulus or the positive? There you go, right? You're like, hey, who are they targeting? Who do you think they're targeting? What demographic? What age group? Right, they're targeting your age group, right? Because they say maybe my age group has already been conditioned, right? So I grew up without the smartphone, early stages of life, and all the technology, which means in my long-term memory, I can be patient, right? I don't necessarily need immediate gratification, right? I may not need to grab the phone every 5 seconds and check social media or something, or look at all notifications. Not as much as maybe your generation, right? Because you have been in a different environment. The environment shapes behavior. So they're probably targeting your generation, right? They say like, yeah, I need some immediate gratification because I like to buy, you know, maybe smaller things, frivolous items that if I get the payment from you guys, I can buy stuff quickly. And maybe also too, you know, in comparison to older generations, that older generations maybe save more. They say that, right? Maybe they save a lot more. Could mean they're just more disciplined. But they've been conditioned that way. Neither is bad nor good. We're just saying this is all just conditioning. Right? But they know that. And so I think we talked last class about the dogs, right? And how like even in toxic relationships, if you have random behavior, that creates more of a confusing dopamine effect. So in essence, that's like addiction, right? So we say like, hey, how do we create addictions even for people in jobs, people in school, so they keep coming back to regardless of anything else, well, we want to keep giving them tiny rewards, just like the casino. Right? You go to the casino, you pull the slots, first 50 times you don't win nothing, you lose a ton of money. That one time you win $80. And you're like, why would you keep repeating this and stay here for hours and hours? Because we can't resist, right? Because of the fact that we have a random schedule of reinforcement, which means we don't know what to expect. We might win, we might not, right? So with that uncertainty, we're more likely to keep doing something because we believe it will be successful, right? Usually we're wrong. We won't be successful. All right, positive reinforcement increases behavior by presenting positive reinforcers. So we say positive reinforcers, any stimulus that when presented after a response strengthens the response. Right? Whenever we say positive, you're adding something. Right? You're adding a reward. You're adding a benefit. If you clean up your room, you can get a sucker. Right? Negative reinforcement increases behavior by stopping or reducing negative stimuli. Negative reinforcers, any stimulus that when removed that response strengthens the response. If you don't clean up your room, you're going to take your tablet away. Remove the tablet, right? We say we're adding, we're removing something, subtracting something. So here we say positive reinforcement, add a desirable stimulus, negative removing adversive stimulus. The key main ingredient here is has to be desired, which means we can't just present any stimulus to anybody because you won't react. Remember we say something that stimulates you has to be a natural stimulus. You really can't force it, right? Because it doesn't stick. The more natural it is, the longer it will stick. You can kind of force, but usually short-lived, which means once you stop giving the reinforcement, that behavior will quickly go back to what it was originally. You'll lose it, right? Kind of like kicking a habit, right? Like unless you really work hard and put the effort in towards doing something else besides like abusing a substance, you'll revert right back to your original behavior, which is abusing the substance. Right? Negative reinforcement, removing an aversive stimulus. Aversive just means something that's unpleasant. When we say we don't want to be unpleasant, no matter what, we want to feel pleasant, right? Body temperature, we don't want pain, right? Any of these things. So here's an example. For positive reinforcement, pet a dog that comes when you call it, pay someone for work done. Right? Here the stimulus for the dog is pet. You know, dog likes to be pet. That's rewarding. How do we know it's rewarding? Because the tongue is hanging out and chest right? Pay someone for work done. It's pretty natural stimulus. Most of us need money. Well, all of us need money. So that's pretty self-explanatory, right? So get paid for work, we will show back up tomorrow, most likely. And then we said remove an aversive stimulus. Here we said we get a headache or get some pain, take pain because it's in. So you said if you want to remove a headache, you have to take something. You have to take something, which is Advil, Tylenol, Motrin, something else. Or we say fasten seatbelt to end loud beeping, right? A loud beeping is an aversive stimulus. That sound is annoying. It's a very unpleasant sound. How do you stop the sound? Well, you have to change your behavior and put the seatbelt on. That'll stop. Any questions so far? All right, primary and conditioned reinforcement. primary reinforces an unlearned, innately reinforcing stimulus such as one that satisfies biological needs, hunger, so you eat food, thirsty, you drink water or something. You may be even doing like sexual needs if it's biological, all sorts of things. Body temperature regulation, all this blood sugar level. And then condition reinforces a stimulus that gains power through association with the primary reinforcer. Basically, they're saying, hey, this one is natural, this one is we're trying to get you to be reinforced from this condition. We're trying to tie in the two in some way so that we can alter the behavior. Immediate and delayed reinforcers. Immediate occurs immediately after a behavior. Delayed involves a time delay between the desired response and delivery of the reward. What are some things you could think of that brings immediate reinforcement? Maybe some immediate pleasure. Or some things that are kind of delayed. They take a while. What do you think? Yeah. What is some reward that's typically immediate after some sort of behavior? Right? Maybe like working out, right? You start working out, you immediately kind of feel good, right? So the sense of feeling good is a rewarding behavior, but it only happens immediately after you start moving your body and working out, right? Maybe say food. Right? Eat something delicious, you're immediately satisfied. Like we're drinking something. Very quick. Doesn't take long. What about delayed? Anything you can think of where like the response is delayed? Or the reward, or the sense of the reward is delayed? Food poisoning? Yeah, so maybe it takes time, right? You ate the food and it tastes that bad, right? And maybe hours later you're like, I got reinforced to never eat there again, right? So now you got a reinforcement to be like, either A, you're not going to eat that particular food for a long time, right? Because your mind is going to perceive that that food just means bad, right? Until that goes out of your memory and you go back and eat something like that. Or it's just a place. What were you going to say?
Well, I was like relating to the workout thing. You start working out, but to get to the physique that you want, that was it.
Yeah, same thing. So we say back to working out. Immediate satisfaction is that you feel great. Delayed one is that you got to reach your desired physique, right? Like I got to go. I'm trying to tone. I'm trying to lose 20 pounds, 25. Whatever. Look like Beyonce or something like that. Yeah. Everybody just going to take 3 minutes. All right, reinforcement schedule, a pattern that defines how often a desired response will be reinforced. Right? So we said we can do different reinforcement schedules. We're either going to give you a reward right then and there, we're going to wait a little bit, we're going to wait a long time, right? All because we're trying to shape behavior in different ways. So we say continuous, reinforcing the desired response every time it occurs. Every time we're doing flashcards with a kid, and he or she gets the correct animal or letter, that they get a reward every time. It's continuous. Right? Or we say we have a partial or intermittent reinforcement schedule, which reinforces response on the part of the time results in slower acquisition of a response, but much greater resistance to extinction, and thus continuous reinforcement. So interesting. So we say, guess what? If we're doing flashcards with the kid, we're like, every time you get one right, you get a treat, right? Which means stop giving treats or stop even showing the flashcards, let's say we stop showing the flashcards for a couple of days, can't possibly remember nothing. Now we gotta start all over. It's like this, I don't know if this works. So how do you say, well, how do you have it to have a greater resistance to extinction? Extinction means when you lose the behavior, right? You don't use it, you lose it, typically, like, except if things are in long-term memory. So how do you get a much greater resistance to extinction than continuous? Well, you say, well, I'm going to give you a treat every 5 times you get it. And now if you do it every 5 times, it will remember a lot more over a long period of time. They say, guess what? Now you only get a treat for every 10 that you remember. That means the kid has to remember 10 things even before it gets a treat, as opposed to just one thing each time, right? That typically will make the behavior last longer, right? It's really about some sort of mental discipline that we're trying to attach ourselves to. So think about that. Going back to Portillo's, we're going to pay people every day instead of every 2 weeks. Right? Company A, let's say McDonald's. Maybe we use McDonald's. McDonald's said we'll pay you every 2 weeks. Portillo's said we'll pay you every day. Which employees are probably going to stick around longer? What do you think?
Honestly, I feel like 2 weeks.
Right, we said 2 weeks. We said because we spread it out, right? Partial. We're not going to do it continuous, back to back to back. We're going to take a little bit. So yeah, because think about that. If Portillo's decides to change the pay schedule, like, hey, you know, we did that just to get you in the door, to get everybody to apply to the job, get you here. Now we're going to switch back to 2 weeks, right? And say, hey, switching back to 2 weeks, we're already used to this. Get it every time, every day. Hey, switching to 2 weeks, we're going to forget about all this, right? We're going to leave. Because you have already altered my behavior to expect something desirable every day. Now you're telling me I'm only going to get that desire fulfilled every 2 weeks. No, that's going to be a problem. It's conditioned ourselves, right? But think about that with hardcore drugs. You're like, man, I need it every day. You're like, what happens if you don't get it every day? I go crazy. My mind goes crazy. Well, let's try to give it to you every 2 weeks, right? You're like, no, that person probably go out and do some criminal behavior so they can feel that response every day. Their mind has been conditioned, right? So, if you want to ask the big questions in life, like, man, why does somebody act that way? Think about it. You ask yourself the question, like, whoever, boyfriend, girlfriend, brother, sister, mom, dad, homeless person on the street, criminal, president, it doesn't matter, right? But why does that person act and behave the way they do? Well, it's kind of getting you, kind of got it. Like, interesting. They've been conditioned under certain environments, and they have a certain different stimulus, and they need that reinforcement for the stimulus. They're in a certain mind state where they're being either reinforced in some way or being punished in some way. That would be the psychological piece. Okay? stop doing it. I stop showing the love 3 days in a row, right? You're like, oh, I'm bored. You're not giving me stimulus. You conditioned me to love me every day, and now you do it every 3 days. I'm out of here, right? That's kind of how it works with behavior. So we say even love is a behavior. It's a conditioned behavior, and it really depends on the reinforcement set, right? So think about that. We could be extremely manipulative with workers, students, people in society. This is generally how our societies are built. So the ones who master this understanding can really observe humans as nothing more than people who need shaping, right? Shaping their behavior by doing little things over a period of time, right? Trying different experimental things. They will inevitably succeed, right? So we have to be careful around those people. So we say that, hey, psychopaths and sociopaths generally rule everyone else. Because they were born, well, psychopaths were born figuring this out. Sociopaths have learned as children to figure this out. And then we are just normal people. Hopefully we're not psychopaths or sociopaths. We're just normal people. We kind of get influenced by everyone else. But if people are very manipulative, they use this to trick us to do whatever they want. And then we say, I can't believe I did that. Well, you got a mastermind of psychology on your hands that you're dealing with. All right, so we're talking about reinforcement schedules, right? We said we want to reinforce the behavior. We got to do things at different frequencies, different time frames, different number of responses, what have you. All right, so we say fixed ratio schedule, reinforcing a response only after the specified number of responses. So we say only after a specified number of responses do we reinforce. The variable ratio, reinforcing a response after an unpredictable number of responses. Right, so we say random number of responses, then we reinforce. Randomly given number each time. Fixed interval, reinforcing a response only after a specified time has elapsed. So here we're looking at time. Here we're looking at number of responses. Here we're looking at time. Like, hey, we only gonna reinforce, say with the jobs, right? We will reinforce, you'll get a paycheck after 2 weeks has elapsed. Or we will reinforce after 1 day has elapsed, you'll get a paycheck. And then variable interval schedule, reinforcing response at unpredictable time. Right? We think we use these for different reasons, depending on what we're trying to do. Here they're just giving a graph of the different ones, right? So we say fixed ratio, number of responses, here's time. Fixed ratio is just really looking at number of responses, almost a straight line. Right? Variable ratio varies just a little bit. Time, really these variable intervals look at time. So these change over time. Variable just kind of steady response to the different All right, so with fixed ratio, every so many reinforcement after the end behavior, such as buy 10 coffees, get 1 free. Right? So we say companies use this reinforcement schedule, right? You go to McDonald's, 7-Eleven, they're like, hey, if you buy 5 cheeseburgers, you use your app each time, you get a free 1 free, you get a rewards, deal, Dunkin' Donuts, right? So we say buy 10 coffees, get 1 free. So that's a fixed ratio. Or pay workers per product unit produced. And then variable ratio, unpredictable number, reinforcement after a random number of behavior as when playing slot machines or flash machines. And then fixed interval, remember we're talking about time here, so every so often, reinforcement for behavior after 15 said, the more random, the more compulsive. Hence why you will check your phone 1,500 times in a day, because it's unpredictable. You get a notification, right? It's unpredictable. You get an Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok notification. And that also increases the addiction that we have to doing that behavior, right? Which is that human beings want order, so when you throw the mind off by creating disorder, we don't know what to do. We really lose control, right? So with order, we could say, if we have order in our lives, we have a sense of control. But we have disorder, we have a lack of control, right? Your brain's confused. You can't actually control your mind anymore. You're just doing things without even knowing that you're doing it. And then we'll end off here with punishment. So punishment administers an undesirable consequence or withdrawal. Something desirable in an attempt to decrease the frequency of a behavior, such as a child's disobedience. So we say, okay, as we get positive and negative reinforcement, remember we say add or subtract, add something or take away. Now we get the same for punishment, right? Add a punishment or take away something to punish. So we say positive punishment, presenting a negative consequence after an undesired behavior is exhibited, making that behavior less likely to happen in the future. What could you think of as a positive punishment? What could we add as a punishment to try to stop someone from doing something? Well, maybe we say positive is adding. So maybe that would be negative. Positive would be like, hey, you get a whooping. Right? Like if you get a physical punishment, that's you get something additional, right? You got the adding of a whooping, a spanking, a beating, or something physical, right? In order to say, I'm adding this on so that you stop doing what you were doing previously. Hopefully you won't do it no more in the future. With children, you're like, hey, does one spanking work? No, one spanking doesn't work. They take 1,000,000 spankings, right? Maybe it's, maybe that changes. Or we even say, like verbal abuse or verbal scorning, like someone scream at you, like, well, they added the screaming in order to get me to stop doing something. And then negative punishment, removing the desired stimulus after a particular undesired behavior exhibited, resulting in reducing your behavior in the future. That one you can think of like if you're in prison and you're one of the worst criminals, what will they do? Maybe remove you from the rest of the population, put you in solitary confinement and isolation, right? So now you have something removed from you, taken away to change your behavior. All right, any questions before we go? No? All right, everyone.